Yeah, so I believe that the meeting ought to be in public, and the deliberations in public, not workshopped. I don't see that serves local democracy.
The other councillors wish to express a view?
I'm okay with having deliberations and workshop form.
Speak up, Joan, please.
I'm okay with having deliberations in workshop form as long as we still have a chance to put our individual opinions when it comes to the vote and the final part of it.
And I'll support the workshop as long as we have a workshop where we can openly voice our opinions.
Yes.
Well, through the chair, openly voice our opinions amongst themselves, but this is the one time a year that the public have a say in the workings of the council, and I just don't see. I don't see the reason for holding a confidential workshop. That's just me.
Can I just speak? I wanted to discuss the additional staffing, and I don't believe I can do that in the public when we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. So that was my email asking for us to have an opportunity to discuss that with the Chief Executive only, because that matter, I think, is sensitive.
Obviously, the staff, that has to be confidential, but surely that could have been taken separately. I've said my piece. That's
the right view.
Sounds like consensus workshop with, as long as it's tabled and opinions are viewed as resolution.
yes. So through the chair, so I accept that's the decision. But speaking of democracy, can I ask why Anthea Keenan isn't included on the list of submitters?
I have no idea.
She did make a submission.
She did make a submission, and she requested on top of her submission that she have speaking rights, and that's been twinked out.
Could Emma speak to that? We did have a discussion, and I believe it was just.
Emma, are you hearing this?
She just sent us a submission that she'd made about 2 years ago, which was about not buying the Saffron Tower, but we'd already bought it. So I think Emma, it's not.
Through the chair, that's not the submission that's included in here. Her submission is she has every right to make a submission as every ratepayer does. Like it or not, as to her views, I'm not expressing any view on that, but the trespass order is passed, that's history, and I don't see, I just see that she's clearly been left off the list by a staff member because she had at the top of her submission the request to speak at this hearing, and then in the agenda it's been trimmed out.
We pass this on to Emma.
Emma, can you respond to that? Are you there, Emma?
It's a slippery slope when staff start deciding who gets to speak and who doesn't. We only had 12 speakers, and Anthea was going to be the 13th.
Okay. Well, thanks for noting the point.
Can we do something to correct that?
Hi, Emma, you're back on.
Hello. So Anthea Keenan, her submission was submission number 1, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
The point was made that she asked to personally present her submission, but was has not been given that opportunity. Emma, do you know the rationale for that?
On the form, she had not actually selected to speak. the way that the form was initially set up was there was an error in the form, so it showed up a line saying that someone had asked to speak when in fact they hadn't, and that was corrected once we realised that the form had an error on it.
Can we take this forward? Can someone please can a staff member just ring her, ask if she wants to speak to her submission, sort that out? We've got people here that had speaking times that I'm sure have other appointments today. Can we conduct the business of the meeting and a staff member contact Mrs. Keenan and ask if she would like to speak?
We can clear this up, so we'll get that organised.
And through the chair, I'd just like to respond to Emma, because the submission that is included in Teams has clearly at the top that she wishes to speak. It's the first line of her submission.
As I said, that form had an error on it. There was a checkbox. People were asked to either say they wanted to speak via Zoom or in person. However, if they didn't select anything, the line saying that they wanted to speak still showed up. So that was an error that was corrected. We then added in a third option of not wanting to speak.
So Emma, can I just confirm, did we validate that Anthea wanted to speak or not at any stage due to the error?
Pardon?
The fact that we had an error on the form, did we validate with Anthea whether she wanted to speak or not?
Well, as she had not actually selected an option to speak, we took that to mean that she did not want to speak.
I think that means.
Well, I think when you say at the top of your submission,
Yeah.
I wish to address the council for my submission, it's pretty clear, unless you want it in Swahili.
No.
And I do. Someone has twinned out that line in her submission, which is included in the agenda. So it's there in the submission, and it's in Teams, in the original submission. Bring her up.
Yes.
I do agree with you, because I remember reading all the submissions.
Emma, come back online, please. Can I ask that you contact Anthea, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So she could be here, Jim.
Emma,
All right. Any other preliminary issues before we start asking these submitters to come and make these submissions? Okay, there being none. Members of the public and submitters, thank you for coming along today to firstly present your submissions. There are about a dozen, as I said, and expect that process to take around about an hour. Time has been allocated to each of you, about 5 minutes. So please bear in mind those time constraints, please, because we have a lot to get through today. So the first submitter is Donald Hibbs from the Western Basketball Association. Donald, yeah, just come up to the lectern. Thank you, Donald.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Don Hibbs. I'm president of the Western Basketball Association, and I have been for the last 4 seasons. We're here to speak this morning about the proposal for Cass Square in particular. And one thing that is missing from Cass Square, I'd like to see inside all the basketball players, is a hoop down at Cass Square. And what Western Basketball is proposing is that we have a partnership where we provide a large heavy-duty backboard and hoop and lines for a hoop, and that hopefully the council can agree to support us with some either concrete or asphalt. The area that we're talking about is next to the skate parks. So the skate parks up the side, got an access road here, which is concrete. I just like to add a little bit of concrete onto that. We will consider a basketball. The reason I think it's important is if you were to come to this town now and you want to go play basketball or shoot some hoops, where would you go? The only answer is school, and that doesn't always work out. If we're going to upgrade the playground and anything else, why not add something where a lot of people are involved? So Western Basketball, we have 14 junior teams, we have 10 senior teams, and we also have about 40 kids playing mini ball. So all up, there's around 150 people involved. As you more than that, sorry, more like 250, and then we'll support anything else. I just think there'd be a good addition to the facilities of Cat Square, you know, and supports basketball with Western, which I'm all about. And that's basically all I've got. The costings, I'm not sure, because I thought I'd bring the council and see if there's any interest in supporting it. And like I said, Western Basketball is happy to fund the other side, the basketball side, the hoops and so on, which is roughly around $5,000. So all we're seeking is a little bit of concrete or asphalt to use as playing surface. And that is basically my solution.
Thank you, Don. Any councillors have any questions?
Yes, thanks, Con. Have you got any dimensions of the playing area?
Yeah, so the normal basketball court is roughly 15 by 15, or half court is 15 metres by 15. The concrete out there at the moment it looks roughly to be, I think it's 4 metres by about 12. So all we really need to do is extend it a little bit further out, and what my 7 or 8 metres.
Sorry, I mean the dimensions, like aerial dimensions of where exactly where you want.
Yeah, I've got a photo here. Hopefully, it'll sort of show you what I'm talking about. So you will see this enough, but basically the centre shaft is over here. There's a little grey piece there. It's the access way. And then the orange piece is the piece we're talking about. So basically joining that. That means, you know, there's minimal work. There's a Norfolk pine that wouldn't be touched. It'd just be tucked in over here, adjacent to the park. And I think it'd be quite good. Your family comes in, your family comes here and you can play basketball and skate and play in the new playground there.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don. All right. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Jared O'Malley. Thank you, Jared.
You're on it. I'm from a terror. My name's Jared. I've been here for 20 years, and I'm an engineer, structural by trade, and went up to the mountains to set up a lodge that was turned into a backpackers. We have international tourists from 99 on open single market, which is about probably 1,200 guests a year that we have from overseas. So on that kind of basis, we have all types of different needs growing in the area because they fan out and they go, and it's a beautiful valley, and they do a lot of tramping, a lot of photographs. So my submission today is about something given in response to the rates that we've paid over the last, for me, 20 years, and have something come back for our rates. All we've seemed to have, which I put in the submission, is things taken away, not added. So something has to be given for it to be taken away, of course, but that has been taken away. We've had essential services taken away, like rubbish. For the first time, we had a toilet given to us. This has got to be clear. This has nothing to do with the residents or Rotorua. This is me and all the folks here that have to put up with people that want to come and use the public toilet. So we want council to have a consideration of giving some of their money back to us to supply the needs of the public that came through. It's not about the residents there. We've all got our own toilets like everyone else. But we have all types of different confrontations. I've had 2 physical confrontations while people travelling over here to a wild food festival, stopping in our drive, getting out in front of my nephews and nieces and exposing themselves and urinating, which become a physical confrontation where I had to throw the person back in his car. That's happened twice, and the second time was with 7 people, and I was trying to deal with them, and it's been many, many, many times where I've had to walk into the neighbours' properties, drag people out of their toilet rolls, and get them out of their properties. So the necessity for a public toilet is paramount, and it's health and hygiene thing as well. So that's the first major point. Council would give some consideration to us on this point. It would be so beneficial to the travellers from overseas, van loads, bus loads at some point. and wander around and look through our valley. They take photos, they photograph that historical bridge, they love the place. Our books are full of magnificent comments about how beautiful Waterra is. They don't have a bias. I want to refer to my comment, and I think the reason for no funding is, I put it here in my submission, as a historical bias. You can sort of think, what is that? Well, I think it goes way back before the 20 years, but I'm going back to about 2004, when I had a building inspector discussing the pros and cons of what I was doing here in something he set up. I asked him, can we have can I get a permit here to build, because I've got 3 properties, can I build a new place? I was told, no, you can't, because it's an earthquake zone. I said, well, that doesn't make sense. This is freehold land. And he said, well, that's just the way it is. And I found out that obviously that wasn't true. But straight after that, I was told that the council could have their way, they'd have Waterra wiped off the face of the land. And I thought, I've just come from Christchurch why would this attitude be here? So anyway, I just thought that was, the sentiment that was said, and thought, what does it mean? I don't know. I thought, if I come to the wrong place, so I go to the mountains, go for the tourism and set up a bit of a business, which I think, we've done. A few people set up really good businesses there and attracted. I'm sure there's been a historical kind of element that's come through, but that doesn't mean that it lasts forever. It's for everyone. So I'm on the council to consider putting something back in that we pay out over years. And another great need we have is we'd like to have some kind of signage ourselves. This is the first town that comes into the west coast that tourists see. It's some kind of welcome, there's some kind of, we're the gateway to the west coast, that we're the last when they leave this stuff. So we have, like I said, 90% of our customership comes from overseas. People sometimes fly in straight from here, native country, grab a car, and they're in our backpackers and stay in our town or in the village in a hotel straight from the flight. So they wake up in the morning and that's what they see all their ride in the day. So we just want something back. It's just need some input from the council, some money to come into us so we can have, we have people calling in all the time. Where's the loot? Where's the loot? And we cater to our guests, but we can't cater to the general public. I mean, no one comes into your houses, I'm sure, and says, or starts doing it on your front lawn or on the neighbours. So we're just asking for some money that we pay to be fed back into our system to help us. The second thing that I'd like to do, and I'll finish on this, is I'd like to see the along with the toilets to be reinstated, which can be actually done. We've done a lot of research onto that, and it can be done really effectively without great cost. By just having the same ones back. But moving on from that, we'd like to have something called rubbish. Kamara get their rubbish picked up, and also I'll just mention it. When Kamara have 3 toilets within 3K, we'd like one, just one. And on the rubbish, we've come up with a proposal that we'd like to bin in there, not like in the past, where everyone can come through, drop the stuff in, and even animals were dropped in, dead animals were dropped in one lot that the council provided. And I can understand why council would, sort of people doing that would want to, maybe take that away. It's not a hygienic thing. So what we're proposing is to have a kind of a rubbish bin set up just like a normal skid, put a hurricane little wire fence and top over it, and we have a key in the lock to it, just like our silver fence container for emergency that it just received, which is great. But we're just somewhere to where even one day a week where they come and put their bags in, and someone will organise something so that can be monitored and then the bags taken away, like other people who do rubbish, which is part of the race. So it's not all about going to the library and great. So I'm asking you guys to please consider us. People, and sometimes person from all over the world, we're the first impression generally when they stop it. And they love the mountains, and this show reflects all from council to be involved in the lands for finances. It's if that's a possible thing, so I really appreciate you considering this. It's not a little thing, it's a hygiene and health thing. It's strewn across the road sometimes, down the sides of roads, it's really good knowledge.
Just remain there, Judy. Any questions, councillors?
Yeah, what's happening at the moment with rubbish and recycling for most of the residents?
Well, we had to take them to Milan and drop them off there. So, yeah, that's, I mean, most people try and tie things in like that, but not everyone travels. So most people try and tie it in with a shopping day or something like that. But also the reflection of that, there's rubbish being picked up off the side of the road. I know what the transits requirements are, you see 10 bits of rubbish or something like that, but they're not always coming through, you know, and stuff, filthy stuff getting left on the side of the road, you know, where people are educated and everything else. And it's, you know, it's normal. It's disgusting. Sure you think.
That's true. I mean, Aotearoa has always been treated as the poor cousin of the West Coast. What's the population currently?
Well, I think it's only about, I just made it about 50 residents that live there.
Yep.
There's other people that come and go. I mean, it fluctuates a bit on the tenancy houses, but I think we did do a tally a while back, and I think it was somewhere around there were 35 or so on the main road through, and on the back road through the village, I think there was something like that. There's something there too, but I'm not sure the exact numbers of that. So maybe that's a bit more than 50. So.
Okay.
But that goes.
Would the residents be prepared to pay a targeted rate, which is like Kamara, other townships, which would pay for, because all these things cost, of course, but it would help to pay for the rubbish and sign perhaps.
Well, this be outside of what our rates are, sort of like doing a grant or doing something like that, sort of that.
Well, I guess, yes, I guess it is outside the rates currently.
Yeah, I can't figure that out. I mean, it was a targeted thing done for open ticket for getting the lights and Mara to get their sign, 1,000, 30,000, that all done outside of it.
I mentioned it was actually Kamara, there was a targeted rate in Kamara, but the regarding the toilets, could I ask
through the chair, should we only be asking questions?
I need to deal with it.
Yeah, okay. Could I ask the staff then where the toilets went to?
What is that word?
Yes.
We had.
Yes.
I don't know. What I'd really like to see, because this was reflecting our money, we received them reinstated and simply converted over to whatever is a legal long drop or a separate tank with a field tile. We've got the room to do that, and we can give them permission to do that on the bit of railway abutment land that's right beside it. So we have a properly functioning economical toilet system set up there where people come through day or night and use it.
Yeah.
We could deal with the issue what happened with the deliberation section.
Okay.
With the councillor.
Thanks for your submission. I think what Paul and I'd probably like clarity on is at the moment pay general rates, right? So that is how the rates work in Aotearoa, and there is no community rate. So for things like toilets and rubbish bins and signage, for the rest of the district, that's a community rate, and Aotearoa is excluded currently from having a community rate. Are you willing to, or do you think that we should be putting a community rate on Aotearoa to help fund these three activities, the toilets, the bins, and signage?
I think maybe it could be part and partial if we maybe come down to having some kind of dialogue separate once it's established. Well, yeah, we can help, no, we can't. I guess what most people think is the paid rates over there the same as anyone else. And what I was getting at was I don't understand what the difference would be between Kamara residents. That they fund all their 3 toilets that they've got there within 3K. That they all fund that out of their own pockets.
Out of a community rate.
Well, they've got a larger population.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
and that's, you know, I don't see that as any problem with raising funds. Obviously, people can't afford out of their own pockets, which is only a few of us that have got private businesses that can make an income. But we're not trying to provide for ourselves. We're trying to provide for the public, you know. And for someone to have to expect to pay for someone else to have to go to the toilet is a ridiculous scenario for us to be in the number and subject to. So we're just talking about people that come through, but they're not residents going out for a walk and needing the toilet before they get home. This is the public. Stop them cracking all over our places and in our doorways. I know you get the sentiment of that, but it's been hard for us. You know, it's been a real ordeal, and it can be quite dangerous.
Okay, all right. Chair, thank you very much. You got more than 5 minutes. So Chair, got
Sorry.
don't say that.
I wouldn't say that. I just think it'd be sure. So thanks for listening to us, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John and Diane Birds.
So I support my mate there. I've got my husband's glasses, was in my hurry to leave home. My glasses are still on the bench, so I have to read the things. But our submission is the same as yours, of course. The absence of town amenities, and I think it's the excuse of the council of the lack of public funds to not do anything possible to get out of doing anything in our town. I think it's been a long-term argument over many years that there is no land, no public land in Aotearoa to put anything like that there. So I think it's an excuse, and I think it's inexcusable. We do have feces and people wiping themselves with towels or old underpants or anything else and leaving it on the side of the road. Down by our place is a creek that's dry most of the year, not a river like this, but people go down there to go to the toilet anywhere they can. And it's not actually their fault. We all need to go to the toilet. So it's, I don't blame them, but it's very difficult to take.
It's a bit of a violent convention for me. The way goes out picking rubbish off the main road most mornings at 5. Okay, so she knows she brings a scrap home to us to get rid of it. And honestly, I've said to Di, I get quite angry. The disgusting stuff she's bringing home to people. This is what people are doing. You people are in Hokitika here don't see this. You've all got plenty of toilets down here. You're all catered for very well in your family. We are not.
So in 2018, the statistics say there were nearly 1,400 cars per day going past Aotearoa. 2021, nearly 1,300. And of course there was a COVID thing in between. And just to go on about that, ambulance come with their patients to use a toilet. They wake up people at the hotel when the toilets were taken away, so they could use the toilets here. So it's a matter of urgency, I think. It's a health issue. It's a poor service from Western District Council, and I think that gets noted by visitors too. It's a poor service. So in terms of where our rubbish goes, John, because I pick up so much off the roads, John goes up to Arthur's Pass.
The last night on the stone. Yeah, we have to get rid of the rubbish. And there's quite a pile of it. I'm bloody disgusted. Take it out of the bag and just come out with it. But yeah, you've really let us down as a community. It is systemic. It has been going on for a long time. We've probably paid ratepayers up there, paid rates for 100 years, and the council have not seen to give us the basics of life. It's only the toilet. It's not for us. That's jurisdiction. We've all got toilets ourselves. This is for the public. we've got the gallery up there, and I got a letter from someone from the council saying, you're a business up there, you should supply a toilet to your customers. Okay, we're not a food business, we're an art gallery, we don't sell much art. Like, we might get 99.9% of the people come into our gallery are lookers. And we did initially get them use our toilet. We now have our 3 grandchildren there that live with us. I don't want public using our toilet. And we feel terrible for just about, I've got so bad, I've got to sign up here so I don't have to be asked. So you guys are well supplied down here, there's no crap around the streets. Let me tell you, as Stuart said, we get into altercations. And we don't need, excuse me, we don't need money added to our rates.
Yeah.
We don't need that. This is not for us. We have our own toilets. This is for the public. And they are angry. And there's a lot of people love it, as Stuart said. People love it up here. I just want to say one more thing. When we got permission to go ahead with our gallery years ago, I think the building inspector's name was Barnes or something. He stressed to us, the main thing was that we have a ramp up to our building, which we've got. How can the council demand us to have a nice ramp for people in wheelchairs to come up to our building, and yet neglect those same people in wheelchairs to have the use of a public toilet?
Yeah.
You know, there's a Native American saying, it's about speaking with full tongue. You want us to build a ramp to our building, and yet you don't want to supply those same people with a toilet. Come on.
Thank you guys. Any questions?
Thank you. One question, just on you provided the numbers that come through the criteria. Was that, do they stop or those ones passing through?
Passing through, but a number of those will be stopping.
Yeah,
No, I don't have time to spend.
I know that, I just wouldn't mind that.
I can tell you something, quite often in the summertime, there's 30 cars at the pub. That would be an idea, 20 to 30 cars, I'm staggered how many, and we get quite a lot of customers, we get more people coming, our gallery in Chile, we do better at the gallery in Christchurch. There's a lot of people wandering around the village, isn't there?
And if you think that the pub can provide for those toilets, they're not open a lot of the time, so they can't.
Yeah, it's really unfair that the public can't.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Charlie Carroll. Thank you, Charlie.
Sorry.
Councillors, here's a representing Heritage Centre at the second century. As you'll be aware, sorry, the report was so long, but I didn't think it was all the details were changes how important, like locally, nationally, and even internationally, the second century is, and the amount of work that the various community groups and individuals of local residents up there have done for the last 6 years. As I stated in the summary, most of the work up there that Lee's doing, it's not really a case of needing money with the council. It's more just a case of needing permission to go and do stuff. There are a couple of things like backfilling up the back of the cemetery. That could actually be done, there's another, when West Guides are up doing another job on the road or something like that. None of that's particularly urgent. The main things that we are looking at though is that if council persists in denying people what to be buried in that cemetery, it is just going to become, the older generation are going to die off. The current connections with it won't be there, and it's going to make it harder and harder to get locals to come here and help out. The current gentleman we've got, John Houston, who goes up there and mows the lawn every week or two. The main reason he does that is there are at least 3 graves up there that members of his family. And as you guys know, you have to give him an award for doing that very thing, but he's well into his 80s now. So we feel that it would be very good if the council could put some money aside to make sure that that we spraying and mowing has continued. I know Mr. Basham has managed to get a quote for it's about $300 a month. It's not a huge amount of money. We don't require it now, but the thing is that John's doing pottage poles in Sweden. That's it. It's been 6 years bringing this place back up to speed. And then we've got a luxury and try and find a way of keeping up to speed. Here at the moment is, the council asset, the council responsibility, the staff, $1,400 per plot. I think it's pretty much self-funded. It's we have people die. So I say there's other options. I don't actually want to die. But if it can be done, that's great. As I say, things like signage on main roads, the generation panels, well, they can be funded by probably individuals at the end of the year, organisations that have funding. We're not asking for rate money for that sort of stuff. The backfilling money, the regular, mostly supplied by the miners net. Even though we get permission to go out there, we probably the ones without a cost of council the money. The only thing I actually see is that a lot of the money, as I said, is about $300 a month, just to make sure the needs money. It's just that the rate payers. It's what that's going to cost a year is least what I paid in interest rates. Not what we did in the last few years.
Okay, thank you. Charlie, any questions?
So I understood that, not local myth, I guess, but that the cemetery was formerly closed when Mrs. Merriweather. Is that not correct?
No, that's not correct. It was actually supposed to be on the agenda a couple of years ago. There was a report being put on the agenda. It was called the Welfare Council meeting. So I sent an email through the mayor saying there's about 12 years affected here. One great example is the fact that needs to be buried up there in 1996. As I said at the time, what I said about that, she died in 1991. The main problem, as I was explaining in the original report, was they didn't know where it was buried. What we have actually ascertained now is how many people are supposed to be buried up there. While we can't identify exactly where each individual person was buried, we do know where they were buried. And we do have a pretty good idea. I've actually been working for the last 4 years on the database that's sitting in the central database for the council. It's actually part of the PNP scheme and other end back in the 1980s. Exactly. Transferring the documents to computerised documents. And it's been a PNP scheme and all it's really keen on genealogy and something. The attention wasn't necessarily taken. There were a few double ups, there were a few missed, there were a few put in the wrong place. If anyone's got any questions about that, I wouldn't have to show the paperwork on that.
Any further questions?
So just to get back to your question, so in order for it to be closed fully, it needs to be the Ministry of Health needs to give permission for under the Burials and Cremations Act of 1964. When that happens, then you can end up with what a few years ago, I've seen the Pioneer Cemetery up in Redfern. They basically turned around quite a few years ago. Well, this is a bit hard to mow around, it's costing us money. They took all the headstones, put them to one side, it's now a big open field. A bit like the car park or the kiosk at Waikato Cemetery, where again they've just shifted them all to one side and they made a car park there. That's not what we want to see happen up there. We've got, the Chinese monument, we've got Stevens, all these war graves and that sort of thing. Those people deserve more respect than being left to the vagaries of the future, and council decides it needs to save a bit of money by doing the thing in the field. If it's kept as an open cemetery, which at this stage it is, that's a lot harder to do. But if council staff insist on refusing to allow sales of plots and burials to happen up there, eventually it is just going to lose that interest, that momentum. It's going to be end up back where it was 6 years ago.
I know I'm not supposed to comment, but I just have to say that it's the most comprehensive history of the Stafford Cemetery I've seen, so well done, Charlie.
Thank you, Joe. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Now, Jason, I see you beaming in online. You're on mute there, Jason. Can't hear you.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning, Jason. Thank you for joining us, and please let us have your submission. Thank you.
Just in advance, just forgive my internet connection. Thanks for giving me the time to raise a few concerns. But for me, I just want to start off with some information around your website and around how people miss a lot of information that's put out. So I'd like to give a special thanks to Stephen Daly, who's actually posted on a Facebook page about the plans and submissions. So it's given me the chance to actually read this and submit this. I'd also like to appreciate that consideration be taken when scheduling meetings that require future public input. Like many of us work from 7 till 5, so buy-in will probably increase in that regard. Now I realise it's always difficult to please everyone, and in today's conditions, it's always going to be difficult to talk about money. But in regards to the rates, 12.5% rise with a similar rise next year potentially, to me, I think is unsustainable. It's 2.5 times the limit that has been set, and I just don't think that's on. With mortgage rates increasing quickly, people appear to be struggling already, let alone potential 25% increase over the next 2 years. I don't know how much you guys earn, but I definitely can't afford that in today's market. But here's a couple of points. Some more clarification around the 189K increase in salaries and wages. Whilst I agree CPI costs have increased, not every person receives the increase. So I feel that's possible that ratepayers lose out here. I mean, if salaries and wages do increase that much, what percentage is it? There seems to be a lot of ambiguity around salaries and wages in the reports. On the 340K maintenance costs, what are the details? I know maintenance is covered under parks, wilderness trail, townships, etc., etc. So what are the other details in the generic maintenance costs? And I was also wondering if a feasibility study has been looked into bringing gardening and things in-house, because contracting costs are increasing more than wages. 900K in equipment monitoring for the 3 water regulation. I'm highly interested in this value and what it fully entails, so a bit more detail on that would be great. And then moving on to the P. Waitara building. Unfortunately, I never saw the information regarding this, as I've only recently found out that I need to subscribe to the council to get email notifications. But a couple of questions. Was there a business case completed on it? And if so, I haven't been able to locate it on the website. So what is the actual purpose of this building? Unfortunately, in my opinion, and many others I've spoken with, it's a waste of money, just like the one-way street on Rebel, but we're stuck with it now. So without dwelling on the past, what options do we have? I agree with the spending that's required for regulatory works, but more breakdown required for the likes of the wastewater, drinking water, etc. I think more consultation with the public around long-term capital plan, and in this, a suggestion box at New World would be a great idea, along with, say, the Harry store and Fran's Foursquare. Has thought been given to holding off projects that aren't required for regulatory purposes and building capital? This should ease demands on ratepayers also. This would give a decent amount of time to consult the public around the direction of the town. And although I do appreciate everyone's efforts in making Westland known, locally and around the world, a lot of positive things have happened over the last few years, but I hope the decisions are made to add value rather than to make a mark. So there's been a lot of wasteful spending, in my opinion, and that's, just my opinion. And in times like these, with the economy on the way down and the rough COVID times we've just been through, I think we need to be tough on unnecessary spending. But yeah, that's really all I had to raise. But and thanks for your time and patience. I appreciate you hearing me out.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate the clarity of your submissions. Any councillors have any questions? No questions. Hey, Jason, thank you very much. Appreciate
Awesome.
Appreciate your input.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jason, at least Sonia Barker. Sonia here.
I think
No, Sonia?
Marco was, he withdrew, but I don't know. Didn't hear
Yes, I see
anything
here
else.
Phil has.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Greg, I think you're next in the list. Greg Maitland, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Sure, everybody. Thanks for having me out today. And I'd also like to acknowledge other submitters for coming along, exercising the democratic right. But, yeah, so let's get into it. See, Edmund Hillary once said, in order to have a successful outcome to an expedition, one must also have a plan B, C, D, and E, and be prepared to change strategies in order to achieve a desired outcome. I believe concern by ratepayers, the affordability of rates in our community is fully justified and must be understood by council. A statement from council in regards to the recent confidence survey that the lack of confidence was due to a lack of communication would suggest that there had been adequate communication, then everyone would be applauding the expenditure. Sadly, I don't think that would be the case at all. In fact, I believe those that were backing the Rimble Street One Way and the Paki Watara renovation are by far in the minority. Council appears to be oblivious to the looming debt spiral, which has been clearly demonstrated since 2019, when national debt was 69 billion and has since ballooned to 146 billion. This government's policy of dishing out money to councils has the absurdity of spending their way out of debt. Consumers have been hit with rising inflation, food and fuel prices, all which have been predicted to increase further. The cost burdens on farmers to comply with upcoming environmental and emissions targets, coupled with a meteoric rise in fertiliser costs, will ultimately translate to much higher costs to those on low incomes. It is a legal requirement in most cases for rates to be paid on land. However, it is not in the spirit of democracy for council to embark on expenditure that jeopardises the ability of the ratepayer to remain on their land due to rising costs beyond their control. In this regard, I would like council to consider holding any further expenditure on the Mountain Jade bill and sell it. Council has not demonstrated that as an asset it is vital to the function of council, that it will elicit a financial return to ratepayer, or even what the final cost will be. To embark upon such venture will, I believe, have an end result similar to that of the Christchurch Stadium, which is predicted to be 200 million more than the original budget. As mentioned in my written submission, the main public assets, swimming pool, libraries, sports fields, museum, have, apart from the covered courts at Western Byre, plus extra toilets and park spaces, plus the improved stormwater pumps, have remained pretty much the same since the 1970s. Therefore, the number of staff required to manage our infrastructure must be brought into question. There is no doubt that there is an ever-increasing burden on councils to implement ever-increasing government legislation, and it's time for councils to step up and say enough is enough, and not how high will the government say it's jump. We are seeing more centralising legislation coming for government that is not in the long-term interests or autonomy or culture of districts like Western. Issues such as Three Waters, SNAs and the dissolution of hospital boards are just three examples of many changes in the pipeline that stem from the government's charter of the United Nations Agenda 2030 that will ultimately remove our rights of self-determination. I don't support council getting back in the tent of LGUNZ, as I believe they are simply pushing the government agenda. In regards to Three Waters, one size fits all legislation, sweetens and thrives, The money coming from government is already our taxpayer money. They are essentially using their taxpayer money to pay us for something that we already own, to give it to someone else to manage for us on their behalf. Such an outrageous proposition that council must fight against. There can be no denying that council has slipped behind in the three basics: water, roads and sewerage. These three basics benefit us all. Yet we have seen large sums of money allocated to minority special interest groups, when much of this money, I feel, should be spent on the three basics. I would like council to focus on the construction of the new sewage system for Hokitika and place all other big ideas in the back burner. What the confidence survey indicated to me was there is a lack of trust in council's ability to protect ratepayers from unnecessary debt. The way to regain that trust is to have the courage to move to Plan B, C, D. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. You're the only one who's got a so far. Councillors, any questions? Greg? No questions, Greg? Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
Stephen Dowling. Stephen, are you on Zoom?
Yes.
I am, but I don't seem to be able to get my camera to work. Anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine, Stephen. Yep.
Why isn't my camera working? Okay. Oh, I'm not sure why my camera's not working. I pushed the buttons and everything else, but it doesn't seem to be working. So hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Just proceed.
Okay, thanks. You probably don't want to see my ugly mug anyway, so we'll just stick with the verbal. So a couple of things that I wanted to talk about that I've addressed in my submission. The main thing is the rates affordability, that the rates, the proposed 12.5% rate increase is just too much. I'm looking at my rates here over the last couple of years, and they've gone up almost $800 in the last 2 years. And for a lot of people, you know, over the next couple of years as well, the rates are set from what they were a year or two ago. And people just can't afford that. You know, it's unsustainable to keep putting prices up all the time. And I think that the council needs to start looking at how they can start saving money rather than spending money. I think some of the projects that have been projected, like I'd like to know, where's the business case relating to the purchase of the building at 41 Weld Street? By my calculations, by the time you guys have spent $4.5 million or something, just based on your 5% servicing alone, which you talk about in the original proposal, in the one of your reports, that's about $250,000 a year just for the servicing on that building. Where's that coming from? You know, who's gonna keep paying for that? And $4.5 million now, we all know is going to be, you know, $5, $6, $7 million or something by the time it's finished. Now, if it's anything like the Revel Street project that tripled in costs, how are we to not know that the same thing's going to happen with the Weld Street property? I just think it's unacceptable. Some of the spending also on the tourism costs and things, like the amount of money that's been spent on tourism, both in Revel Street, that wasn't there for the benefit of the ratepayers. Why are ratepayers paying to have dining decks put outside private restaurants? You know, and even the design of the decks was crazy. You already had a great example in the one that was outside Stella, and then somebody decided to come along and redesign it and did it in such a way that it was road so high that it needed to have a ramp then put on it, which also meant the deck had to be about 50% bigger than the one that was in Stella for no end result. it's got the same amount of usable space on it almost, but it's about 30% bigger than the one that was already there. And the Stella one is already wheelchair access available. And the ones that you've got there now, it's just a hugely expensive, I don't know, fiasco, I call it. So anyway, I think that's about what I want to talk about. But I think particularly the rates increase, I think that the rates have to come down. I don't think that they should go up at all. We're already the 8th highest rated district in New Zealand, and that doesn't even factor in the fact that a couple above us are actually unitary councils, and so they don't even have to pay regional rates. By the time you add our regional rates onto it, we're probably in the top 5 already. And this year, that's according to the Taxpayers Union report, this year, if you get the 12.5% through, we're probably going to end up in the top 2 or 3. And I think for a city the size of Hokitika, and given that you have the household income rates in New Zealand, it's just not an acceptable proposal. That's about what I got to say on it.
Stephen, thank you. Any councillors want to ask Stephen a question? No questions? Stephen, thank you very much for your.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for coming, guys.
I just want to say before I go too, you know, these people are quite right. You guys.
John, you've had your opportunity. Thank you.
Spend a lot of money on lights. Yep. Toilets are unnecessary.
Thank you very much.
Not lights and bloody flags.
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, Bonnie. Sherry, thank you, Bonnie.
My name's Bonnie. I'm the manager of the Treetop Walk. This is not my forte. I don't like standing in front of people. So my concern is about the cycle trail, the road section between our gate at Treetops and the restart of the walk going south on the walk. We've got, like, I'm all for the cycle trail, don't get me wrong. I don't want, you know, the cycle trail brings Hokitika a lot of money. You know, there's from the numbers year on year, we're getting more and more cyclists every year. So the age group is normally 50 plus for a lot of these cyclists. So some of them are a little bit unsteady on the bikes anyway. So that narrow bit of road, there is just no room to pass. So even if I've just got one bike going along there, you can't safely go past them without seeing what's coming the other way. We've got logging trucks that come along that bit of road. In the height of the season, we've got camper vans all coming from the Hokitika Gorge. They go along that back road heading down south. I know this is actually on the plans to be done future, 3 or 4 years down the track, but my concern is someone going to get hurt before that happens? So we've got groups coming through now from anywhere between 20 and 30 people in one cycling group. Like Easter, we had 26 just in one group. Where I've got photos of just the amounts of bikes and cycles that we're seeing every day coming through. We've got to put some more bike stands up because there's just not enough stands for the bikes. So, and these are all probably here at the Treetops around lunchtime. So they all have lunch and then they're all going to be leaving about the same time. And most of them are heading back north into town. So you get the odd one that goes the opposite way, but most of them are all going the same way. So I just would like it to be considered that we can move it forward to get the actual cycle trail put through and into our car park as a safety issue rather than anything else. It's not going to be of any benefit or difference to us as a business, but for the safety and the comfortable ride for the customer. So I think everybody will know that we get a lot of income from the cycle trail. They're here 3 or 4 nights, so it's bringing a lot of income in. I just like to see, we have customers say to us, oh, do I have to go back on the road to get back? Is there any other way I can get back, without going on the road? So, and some of them have actually rung and being picked up from treetops because they are just a bit unsure of riding back in on the road. So just to make that a lot more comfortable for them, I think it would be nice to be able to get that through. I know it's a cost, but yeah, long term it is on the plans. But yeah, if we get that moved forward before Christmas, when we get really busy again and lots of camp events.
Just mainly, thank you, Bonnie. Any questions?
Yeah, I probably should know, but is the plan in the future, is it to go alongside the road?
I think it's inland off the actual track, so it's not on the roadside. There's a path, an old paper road or something, I think it is, that they want to look through. I'm not sure on the whole details there, but yeah.
Right, thank you, Bonnie.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Okay.
Good to see all those bikes parked outside your tree.
Yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Great. Okay, Jackie.
No, not today.
Thank you, Jackie Grant. Thanks, Jackie.
All right. Given the allocation of time for these submissions, a mere 5 minutes per submitter, I am now pleased to see that that time's been extended a bit. So we'll get you over that.
We'll give you 6, Jackie.
I'm only going to concentrate on 2 aspects of the proposed plan. But before I do, I have to say, in my opinion, this council has been forward-thinking and has done a good job overall. I need to say my cash register loves the new Revel Street improvements. And for our business, it's been fantastic. My submission is about the plans for the museum and the impact on rates that those plans will have. The first question council should have asked itself was, can we, as a small provincial district with a ratepayer base of around 6,000, afford a fully funded museum along the lines of what has been proposed? And in my opinion, the answer is clearly no. Will the Pounamu pathways fill the gap? That was a question that should have been asked. While there may have been large sums obtained from outside sources initially, there is never any guarantee these funds will be obtainable on an ongoing basis, which means ultimately the ratepayers will be left to carry the can financially. Let's remember the bike trail and how we were told no cost to ratepayers. That was only a couple of councils ago. Absolutely no cost to ratepayers. How did that pan out for council? And I'm not knocking the bike trail one little bit. I think the bike trail is great, but what we were told and what happened were 2 different things. Approximately every $200,000 we spend on this type of project equates to around 1% of rates. So given the proposed and existing wage bill, a curator, and I now hear an assistant curator has been proposed for what? A Te Papa type theme park. We're also looking for a board of directors. This will also have a cost. We already have researchers, etc., quite a few staff at the museum. If we ran the museum like other provincial museums by volunteers, and we would be the smallest district in the country to have a museum with paid staff. Every other museum in a small provincial area has got a museum run by volunteers. So if we ran the museum like other provincial museums with volunteers, overseen by a heritage society, possibly funded the way the Regent Theatre is with an annual grant of, say, even up to $100,000, the saving would be, in my opinion, at least a large percentage of the proposed rate rise. I suspect the museum wage bill and operating costs alone will be way over 500,000 K. I do note at one point the museum was put in the hands of Destination Hokitika, but then clawed back to council. Maybe that needs to be reassessed. The Carnegie building was built as an early 1900s style library.
not a museum. No matter how we renovate, improve the current footprint, the building is too small to house a museum of any consequence. Hence the theme park proposal to justify its existence. At the end of the day, the museum has limited space for meaningful displays. In my opinion, the museum will always be like so many other provincial museums, small, housed in a building not fit for purpose. The majority of the items held there have never seen the light of day, and I suspect never will. I do acknowledge the value placed on the collection and its importance. However, I keep going back to the argument, can we as a region with a limited ratepayer base afford it in its current proposed form, especially when there will be at least a partial double up with Pounamu pathways. Our councillors seem to have been put into the position where they are unable or too frightened to challenge staff that are making unilateral policy decisions that otherwise should have been made by council. Councillors, New Zealand and the whole world is approaching a time of crisis with soaring costs. 2 years ago, a bag of spuds cost $10. Now you only get 2.5 kilos for $7.99. Fuel is over $3 a litre. 2 years ago, my cost to ship a sock machine to the USA was $230. Now it's $460. I have to suck quite a bit of that up, at least $150 of that cost. I can't pass that on, or I wouldn't sell any machines. You need to learn those same lessons. Mortgage rates are rising. The humble sausage or a kilo of mince, once our cheapest meats, are now hitting $29.99 a kilo. How do you feed a family on that and pay $80 or $90 a week rates? Because that's what the average rate in Hokitika is, around $80, $90 for a pretty modest house. We're heading into a recession where people will struggle to have the basics. We're approaching a period of forced austerity not seen since the Depression of the 1930s, and people are already having to cut their cloth accordingly, from growing vegetables to raising rabbits for meat. And I know that sounds like I'm going into cuckoo territory, but I'm a child of the 1940s, and just coming out of the Depression era, that's what people did. They had hutches of rabbits in their backyard to subsidise for protein, for meat. They grew their own vegetables and things. I suggest we're going back to that. And if you look on, just go on the net and search New Zealand meat rabbits, and you'll find they have something like 15,000 members on that site already. And people are every day posting, wanting to buy these rabbits. So people are starting to think along those lines of how do we survive? How do we get through? Pensioners and people on fixed incomes, families with one income are paying on average $80 plus a week for rates already. So I would just ask you from your position of power to put yourselves in the average ratepayer's place, then try to look us in the eye before you are agreeing to this type of expenditure. That's my submission.
Thanks, Jackie. Any questions, councillors? Jackie, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. Thank you.
Now, Rachel Thomas, I think I saw you on move a little bit earlier. Hello, Rachel.
Good morning, councillors. Yes, so I am Rachel Thomas, and I am the Senior Policy Advisor with Federated Farmers. Our president for the West Coast Federated Farmers, Bede O'Connor, was hoping to join us, and he was online, but unfortunately now puts an apology in as he's travelling to the Rural Support Trust AGM. So thank you for the opportunity to present our submission today. We commend the council on its annual plan in what is a very challenging environment, but like other submitters, we are concerned by the 12.5% rates increase and do have some specific points to raise. We are pleased to see the council has reviewed fees and charges. Our view is that fees and charges should always be maximised because often the alternative is that the general rate is relied upon. This results in higher capital value properties supporting services they do not often utilise. Of particular interest to federated farmers is the fee structure for resource management. We think there is an opportunity for the council to ensure cost recovery meets actual costs. It is our view that the proposed $180 per hour for admin support should be reduced to $105 in line with Christchurch City Council. We question the rationale for setting admin fees at this amount. Likewise, we question the $200 fee proposed for planners and believe these should be reduced in line with Christchurch City. I'd also like to comment on rates. The view of federated farmers is that rate increases should not exceed inflation. When comparing Westland's average rates increase to other councils, it is certainly at the top end. However, we do appreciate the difficult situation the council is in with having to upgrade infrastructure to meet standards for Three Waters. We also share the view of the council that loan funding is by no means a sustainable option for funding operational expenditure. In a time where there is much uncertainty posed by changing regulations, we appreciate the council has made efforts to not exceed the LTP increase. But this increase is high and will be felt by many in the community. If there are any measures council could take to reduce the increase or projects which could be deferred, we urge that these are explored to bring down the 12.5% average increase. Just to conclude things today, farmers are facing increasing financial pressure with changes to government regulations, inflation, the global pandemic, and rate rises. Federated farmers do not object to ensuring the council provide a good level of service. However, it is crucial that the council remain prudent. We ask the council to consider the perspective of farmers who contribute significantly to the local economy, yet are subject to rising costs. Any small increase in rates based on capital value has a large increase for many of our members. So please bear this in mind when you reach your decision on the annual plan this year. The contribution from your rural community is significant, and they will continue to be relied on to help the country recover economically from the pandemic. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Rachel. Please thank me for coming on before I saw her appear on Zoom. Just unfortunate to get some people for her. Councillors, any questions of Rachel? No questions, Rachel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Staff of Deputy Contact Mrs. Keenan have contacted you, and in order to deal with her submission, I've asked, just so that her submission is heard in fairness to her, I've asked Susie to read it. Mrs. Keenan, if you're watching on live streaming, apologies for any misunderstanding about your submission, but as I said, it's going to be read in its entirety so that we have the benefit of hearing your views. Okay, thanks, Susie.
Council and CEO-elect, staff and appointed, including external chairperson for finance, audit and risk, are failing in every area to meet council vision, but have divided and discriminated, have cost us dearly by using litigation without any delegation to do so. Those costs are excessive on council and us as ratepayers, due to us calling council out for malfeasance. Lists have been submitted, as too has submissions and ratepayers' signatures to reduce rates by 30%. Council has a mule-like attitude with poor communication, continuing to exclude or harm long-term people as us. We have not received audit management report for June 2021. Interest rate figures going up over 1 million and borrowings up near 40 million is excessive. Auditors have in the past been concerned about council workings. So where is AMR, which ratepayers pay dearly for audit, not for staff to hold on to FAR committee to be slow in release? As we have asked council, must stay with core business function. Council Paki Waitara purchase should not have happened, nor should have Rebel Street one-way system full stop. It is like the spending for Freedom campsites, TIFF Sunset Point, when Lake toilets are messy. The spending for Freedom campsites, the racecourse, also the Wilderness Trail and tourism promotion rate equals cut them all out when we all realise the country is indebted up to our necks. Where is the consultation accountability for tax grabbed grants. You are employing more staff. No sense in economics from our taxes, in brackets, high debt loads. You are selling us out. All extra costs over and above the long-term plan should be put on hold unless special consultation. No CEO committee making decisions of litigation or any other projects without ratepayers and taxpayers, those who have most interest in council-elect proper and full decision-making. Staff are our servants, not to dictate. Asset management plans, in brackets that being core business, are essential for proper budgeting without any fanciful spending as Makariri, Te Reo, Ferry Lights, Paki Waitara, which are of little use but increasing debt loads. Makariri is Seven Sister Stars world renowned. Don't make another public holiday at our expense. Ratepayers should not be misled but given real information. All risk should be well identified, reduce triplicated policy, bylaws, and unify with other councils now, as are our application to Local Government Commission. Do not make any increases to the long-term plan, which is already altered by way of purchase of Mountain Jade building. And in brackets, Paki Waitara already named before ratepayers aware. Do not increase rates at this time. Do not increase targeted rates. Cut back as we asked and spoke within previous submission, 28 September 2020. Do not use litigation on good long-term ratepayers who are criticising you in public office who have failed. Our democracy has been eroded. We, Westland Anzac descendants, will not put up with dictatorship. We also see that reserve funds have been depleted. We will remember having to call back reserve funds. We will remember having to call back reserve funds as council failed in process. Reduce immediately and unify to one or two West Coast councils, and in brackets for just 23k rateable properties, as 4 and CCOs is excessively undemocratic and uneconomic.
Well read, Susan. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so that's
Just to close this out, there's an email also, and I'm just curious, what is the Save Western Heritage petition? Where has that gone? Because the email says it's gone astray. Has it been received by staff? I don't know what this petition is.
A couple of years ago, because we haven't done anything.
Hello, that petition was the one in relation to the purchase of the Paki Waitara building. So the decision was made that as the Paki Waitara building has already been purchased, and unless council chooses to sell the Paki Waitara building, the submission did not have any relevance to the annual plan.
Can we please have it sent to councils?
Yeah, what?
Can we please have this petition sent to councils?
Yes, I can send a link to the petition to councillors.
I just think we're getting into, we shouldn't be gatekeepers for submissions. Even if the submission came in and said, you know, it was addressed to the Grey District Council and it was all incorrect, I think it should be considered as being entered as a submission and then distributed and then assessed on its merits, or otherwise at that time it's a bit of a slippery slope if we're not seeing things as council and then an issue like this comes up and we get an email saying please refer to the petition. I didn't even know we'd received a petition. So
I think this is a petition that you have seen a couple of years ago before we built that for that. So I think it is one you have seen. So
it's quite old.
I think it does seem to be, yes, I agree you should have it again, but I think let's be clear that you have actually seen the previous.
well, that's what I'm not sure of. I'm not sure of the Save Western Heritage petition, because that to me doesn't mean don't purchase Paki Waitara.
I'm sure this is the same petition, is it, to Emma?
And the petition was originally submitted to the long-term plan amendment when the Paki Waitara building was being considered.
Not as part of the second plan.
So it hasn't been submitted as a submission. So that's wrong in the email. Yeah.
But Emma, I would suggest you do send it, because obviously it's a couple of years ago now.
fully agree that it ought to be released. And we've had the same with the petition that was signed by 900 people regarding Rebel Street. We didn't see that one either.
Can we just clarify that? Have we got a petition signed about Rebel Street? Because if we have, that should go to councils too.
Correct.
Never received, I haven't seen it.
Don't know about it.
Through the chair, my understanding is that was the petitioners tried to present that at the time and it was refused by the council staff because it was under deliberation.
Yeah, well, look, I just don't know anything about that at all.
900 people that signed it will soon be able to tell you.
But someone must have this petition because we keep hearing about it. I mean, to me, it needs to be released to us if we've got a copy of it or if we know someone.
I don't know about it.
Okay. Seriously, yeah. No, I'm just looking at US and corporate service.
I think we need to
We're just trying to find it.
I also agree that staff should.
Disconnect between the council and the councillors.
Unfortunately, it is submitted because they were submitted. So.
Sorry, guys, that this is not part of the process.
It is frustrating.
Just to clarify, please can we see that we'll save Western Heritage petition, please, if we can do a search, a minute search or email search or something for this other Rebel Street petition and get them both circulated to councillors.
Okay.
I find it in the minutes.
Oh, no, sorry, I mean, no, sorry, or like a council internal search through its database.
Okay, thank you. Do that. Now adjourn this meeting for consideration. I think we'll close the live stream. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it being.